Hello my friends, and welcome to the channel for a look at a Zealot build for Darktide that harnesses the fury of the Emperor to create an undying holy warrior that your whole team can rally around and depend upon to save them when everything goes wrong. When Darktide first released, I was an unapologetic Zealot main, but after the character overhaul, it was the last class that I put my hands on. At first, I was a little underwhelmed with the new feel of the class, but fortunately I realized that this was just a skill issue. Once I got back into the flow of playing a purely melee character, I quickly remembered just how fun it was cleaving through hordes like they didn't even exist, and standing toe-to-toe against enemies that would make my psyker run away screaming. For my first Zealot build, I wanted to focus on a setup that essentially acts as a clutch master or a team anchor. The kind of character your team can always depend on to get the revive in a bad situation, or bully a big mob away from the squishy damage characters so they can focus on dishing out damage and not worry about being overwhelmed. To that end, I've tried to stack this build with as much lifesteal, toughness regeneration, damage resistance, and stun immunity as I possibly could, while still having enough damage bonuses to be able to cut through tough enemies quickly and salvage bad situations without having to hit things 100 times. I've been running the heavy Eviscerator two-handed Chainsword because come on, I'm playing a 40k game, of course I'm going to use the Chainsword. That being said, the Zealot has access to lots of really good melee weapons, and once you learn your combos and what attacks work best in certain situations, this build should work with whatever your favorite pick is. To start this off, I'm going to go over the talents on my build and then talk about my loadout, blessings, and curios. Right here at the start of this section, I'll leave up a full image of the talent tree, so if you just want to screenshot this and get back into the game, well, here you go. So right at the top of the talent tree, I'm first taking a small dip into the right-hand path, getting the Backstabber talent for extra damage when hitting it from behind, but more importantly, I'm aiming for the Blood Redemption talent. This increases your toughness regen from melee takedowns by 50%. And this is just a pretty nice safety net to help you stay at high toughness, and it's pretty much always going to be activating. Next I take Disdain, which can stack melee damage up to an extra 25%, and enemies within to get some passive toughness regeneration. After this I grab the toughness boost, and then I take both Bleed for the Emperor and Vicious Offering. Bleed for the Emperor is an awesome talent that reduces damage by 50% if it would go past your next wound. So big hits from strong melee enemies or sniper shots will hurt a lot less, and Vicious Offering can allow you to go from 0 to 100 toughness in one big heavy attack cleave through a horde. For my blitz, I take the Stun Storm Grenade, simply because in my opinion, it is maybe the ultimate clutching tool. It might not kill anything, but it has a huge radius and it stuns enemies for long enough that you can almost always drop a stun grenade and have enough time to revive 2 or even 3 teammates and recover from a situation that seemed utterly hopeless. After the blitz, I spread out across all sides of the talent tree, taking the melee damage and both of the toughness buffs. I'm doing this to take 2 small dips into the center and right side of the talent tree. In the middle, I'm taking the Emperor's Bullet, which is a nice bonus, but I'm only taking it to get access to the next talent, Shield of Contempt. This talent grants you or any ally in coherency 75% damage reduction for 4 seconds after they take damage. This is a huge defense boost, and it only has a 10-second cooldown, so you're gonna get a lot of use out of it. This one is very helpful for the entire team and will often prevent you or a teammate from going down. On the right side of the talent tree, I'm taking Dance of Death, which once again is a pretty decent buff, but I'm only taking it so that I can access the next talent, Thy Wrath Be Swift. This talent makes you immune to being stunned by melee attacks, and after taking any type of damage, you gain 15% movement speed. This is another talent that just enables so many good plays, because you can no longer be smacked out of animations or pushed back by melee enemies when you're trying to sprint across the room and get to your teammates to help them. Now back on the left hand side of the tree, I take the movement speed bonus and then both Until Death and Holy Revenant. Until Death stops you from dying once every 2 minutes, leaving you with 1 HP and 5 seconds of complete invulnerability. Holy Revenant lets you heal back HP based on how much damage you do while in that 5 seconds of invulnerability. You have to be careful not to purely rely on this to save you all the time, but it's an amazing ability for when everything just went really bad really quickly and you absolutely have to survive and get someone revived. For my aura on this build, I've settled on Benediction, which grants 15% toughness resistance to you and all allies in coherency. I was running with the middle aura that heals corruption for a little bit, but I found it much easier to survive on auric level missions with that flat 15% extra defense. After this, I take the toughness boost and then I dip into Fury of the Faithful as my combat ability. This is just a buffed version of the standard Zealot dash, instantly giving you 50% toughness, 20% attack speed for 10 seconds, and 25% extra damage, plus a guaranteed critical hit on your next melee attack. I also take the modifier to give it a second charge, so I can use this ability very often. This ability is very versatile, able to be used offensively to close distance and make your attacks more powerful, but also defensively, giving you an on-command 50% toughness heal and the ability to dash out of things like fire or away from melee attacks that are going to hit you. I tend to use my first charge as an offensive tool and save my second one for a clutch heal or to escape from things. Now, one little tip I have for using this ability with the Chainsword specifically is that it has sort of a weird interaction with the special charge up ability. The Eviscerator special revs up the chain and makes your next attack go into an animation of it sawing through them, doing very heavy damage. However, the extra damage and guaranteed crit from your ability seems to activate on the initial hit, not the sawing part. So if you want to boost the damage of the special attack, it's actually better to activate the dash after the animation begins. You can see here in the meat grinder, if I dash and then attack with the special, it barely takes half of the HP. But if I attack first and then dash while the animation is playing, it doubles the damage. The timing is a little weird, but I was able to one-shot some pretty heavy armored enemies by doing this method. So keep it in your back pocket for when you really need to take down a crusher really fast. Moving on down the talent tree, I take the suppression and toughness buff to get to the middle. Then I take Faithful Frenzy for the melee attack speed bonus, and Faith's Fortitude for the extra 2 wounds, which is just overall a useful buff for a melee focused character that is going to get hit a lot. After this, I'm taking Martyrdom and both of the modifiers for this ability. Now at first I was running the left hand keystone for the crit bonuses, but I have settled on Martyrdom for this build. With both modifiers active, this ability gives you stacking melee damage, attack speed, and toughness resistance per missing wound. Some people like using this as a means to purely boost damage, but for me, this talent just basically makes you more clutch the worse things are going. I never go out of my way to leave myself at low HP just for the buffs, but I know in the back of my mind that the harder I'm getting hit, the harder I can hit back. So the worse the situation, the more likely I'm able to clutch out of it. And that covers it for my talents, so let's take a quick look at my loadout. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm running the Eviscerator Chainsword, and I'm focusing damage, cleaving, and armor penetration for my highest stats on my weapon. For blessings on this thing, I've really been liking Momentum, which gives you toughness back when hitting 3 enemies with one swing. At higher levels of this blessing, you get more toughness, so try and get this blessing as high as possible. For my second blessing, I've been running Rampage just because it was already on here. It boosts damage up to 36% after hitting 3 enemies with one attack, so it does synergize with Momentum. However, Savage Sweep and Wrath are also very good options because they boost your cleaving bonus massively, so you can cut through more things with more damage. Now, my favorite combo to use with this weapon combines a push and 4 wide swings to harness the sheer cleaving potential of the Eviscerator. First you block, then push and hold your attack button to follow through with a wide slash. Next, charge up a heavy attack for another wide swing, and then follow up with 2 light attacks for 2 more wide horizontal cleaves. This combo will absolutely bully any horde of melee enemies, and you can basically just repeat it as much as you want and literally walk through the biggest hordes that you've ever seen like they're not even there. For my ranged weapon, I've settled on the Agrippina combat shotgun for one specific reason, and that is counter sniping. This shotgun has a much tighter spread than other models, making it better at medium distance, and it can load a slug round with its special, allowing you to fire across the map and nail snipers with a single accurate shot. For my blessings, I run full bore, which increases damage when you make a perfect shot or hit with the slug, and no respite, which increases damage against staggered enemies. And since shotguns stagger things very easily, this perk gets a lot of use. For my curios, obviously I try and prioritize extra wounds just to stack more bonuses from the martyrdom keystone. My other big priority is to get damage resistance against ranged enemies like gunners and snipers. Gunners can be some of the most annoying enemies to deal with as a zealot when you get caught in the open, so damage resistance against them is quite nice. And that more or less covers it for my zealot build. I ran multiple Auric missions with this setup, often without even being downed once, and I made tons of clutch revives to save the team when things went really downhill. If you're used to playing a ranged character, it's gonna take a few games to get used to being a frontline melee fighter. But once you get the rhythm and understand how fast you can go from no toughness to full toughness, I found this build very fun to play. I have to give a thanks here to Lucasus from my Twitch chat for helping me with the talents, and to Toruk for giving me the amazing tip on boosting the special attack damage on the Eviscerator. I hope you enjoy the build, and let me know how it works for you if you try it out. Thanks for checking out the video. I've got links to my Twitch stream and Discord server down below for anyone interested. And until next time, stay safe out there in the Hive City.